It's a cybersecurity career path and progress and cyber rush by Dr. Rakhi Vadvani. And please do check out some handbooks by her on digital forensics towards the left.
Of Feb regarding the attack on one of the hosting services called GoDaddy.
Oh, that happened this morning as well.
It happened this morning as well.
Yes.
What happened there? Anybody, it's okay to give wrong answers. I just don't want to have a slide and just all of us keep reading it. I would like to have a more of an interactive session than just looking into this presentation, which can always be, you can always obtain it from the people who are actually organizing it. So what happened to that? It's a very good example of cloud malware, which my earlier speaker Abhishek actually brought a very good context about the entire thing. So what happened there? Any idea? How was that attack? Anyone?
Is it DNS?
DNS attack, okay. Anything else?
Hijacking.
The attacker did not do much. He was actually trying to analyze and work on this particular hosting services from multi-years. It was not a one-day attack here. It was a multi-year attack. The attacker stole the source code, installed a malware through obtaining the privileged access from the cPanel. And boom. If we are, basically the good part about the cloud is you have multi-tenants, right? So you multi-organization into a single cloud. If a single instance of the cloud is under attack, is under breach, there are X number of companies that have a problem. It's not a single organization that goes into a disaster, right? So let's see what is it that we have in the cloud malware and what are the different types of attacks. But the second part is something which I would like to more focus on is the security measures. We all being very technical, we try to see that the implementation part is correct. But what we try to see is the other part of implementation is your security measures. Because as a professional, when we keep on talking in our industry, we say the best sense is a common sense. Right? So we have been hearing about zero trust, zero tolerance. So I always believe in only one statement: trust but verify. Right? So this is something which we will be, we'll have more focus on. We'll quickly go through what are the different types of attacks. How many of us have heard about hypervisor? What is it? Pardon me? Virtualization. So it is basically a concept which takes care of various virtual machines running on the cloud. It creates and manages. Basically, if I can say, it's a virtual machine monitor, right? So with this context, let's quickly go through the presentation. A quick introduction about who am I. So basically, I always call it a KYT session, which is Know Your Trainer session. I'm Dr. Rakhi Vadvani with around 23 plus of industry experience, right from IT to being a CISO of an organization, and now I work with one of the certification bodies handling various certifications. And I'm a published author. I have 2 books which is published. And I'm a trainer, and recently I have also been a part of the TEDx speaker groups. Okay, so basically, what is cloud computing? When we talk about cloud malware, let's understand: do my computers can fly? When my mom is a senior citizen and I might tell her, Mom, I'm working on a cloud. So she says, is it that when we sit in the airport, on the airlines and we see the cloud outside? Because they're senior citizens, for them, clouds can fly. So do we see that clouds can fly? But it's basically computing services taking care of various devices, storages, computers on the cloud environment. So how many of us use cloud on our day-to-day lives? All of us? Gmail sabke paas rahega. Anybody has an Android phone is on the cloud, right? I cannot go without that concept. So how many of us protect our data on the cloud? And that's a very silly question, but the next question to it is, how many of us change our passwords of our cloud services at defined intervals, not office, but personal? Think about it, question for yourself. Okay, so what is cloud security? It is basically becoming very critical with day-to-day cloud breaches happening. I was just reading a statistic yesterday that 70% of our cloud are vulnerable. And it's true. If you go to see, it's very true. And how is it? We look into it a bit later. So cloud security is always challenging and complex subject. So more we try to understand it, the more we try to get into it, and there is a jigsaw puzzle. Okay, is it this is the right way to protect, or is it the second way to protect? We all of us are in always a confused state, including me, right? So cloud is a very complex subject. It's basically providing infrastructure secure and well organized. The cloud users' lack of knowledge and misconfiguration. These are two main culprits to ensure that your cloud is not safe, right? How many of us had heard about the AIMS hospital hack? How did it happen? Ransomware. But how did the ransomware came into picture? It's very common ransomware. All of us get attacked through either a ransomware or a malware. How did the ransomware came into the picture? Anybody read about the case study? A beautiful case study for all of us to go through AIMS hospital. A very good classic example of my cloud. What was it? How did the ransomware attack happen? Yes, sir.
Yeah, okay.
Yes,
So I guess that they didn't have the patches in place.
They did not
latest
have the patches in place.
Many
Yes.
days, so there were vulnerabilities readily available
Correct.
for the version which they were running. So
Correct.
according to what I've read, that they had been compromised this way.
Absolutely. So you're on a very right track. What happened is we purchased the best firewall. So I have a best firewall of Cisco, Fortinet. I'm not against any of the against any service provider. So please do not take me in the wrong sense. But I'm against the people who actually configure those on a network. Okay. So for example, if I purchase a TV at home, can I just keep it on the table and say the TV will start? There has to be some configurations, right? That engineer has to come, plug it into the system, connect it to my set-top box or connect it to my DTH service provider to provide me what I need. So what happened is we procured a box, a firewall box, but we forgot to do any configuration to the box. It was a plug and play. And what happened is my unsecure services, my unsecure ports are still open. Any person in the college who's learning about hacking can also go into those systems and bring out the vulnerability. So that is something which I think misconfiguration is the main culprit. That is what exactly happened in AIMS. A very good classic example of misconfiguration and user awareness. So these are two very important things which I say that common sense is required to ensure that we are safe. We can have a best firewall, but we need to have the best human wall in place. So what is cloud malware? It's basically a malicious code as a service, and cloud malware has various cloud-based systems ideal for cyber attacks. So it could be open cloud-based systems, standard and easy to learn, or it could be virtual machines, storage buckets and containers on our various services that we take. It could be from the Azure, it could be from GCP, it could be from any cloud service provider. So I would yes say the services are really good to take from the cloud. But the configuration, the way we keep it secure is very important. So now let's see what are the different types of malware attacks. All of us are aware about DDoS attack, which is distributed denial of service attack. So what are the various services we take from the cloud? Infrastructure as a service, platform as a service,
Software as a service,
right? But there is another type of service which is offered by the malware attackers are known as malware as a service. How many of us are aware about this? Malware as a service. So it's nothing but you procure it at a very economical rate and try to work and set up a malware in any of your cloud infrastructure, which is nothing but some sort of a DDoS attack onto my system. And it does nothing, it tries to exploit the system, tries to put a vulnerability into the system and ensure that it doesn't work. Or it works at a very speed that we cannot work with it. 286, the system, if I say 286 systems, I do not know how many of us have heard about 286 and 486 systems. Now we are all on Intel and Pentium. But that is the speed that it will go on, right? So it's basically, it usually occurs in a public cloud and it affects all the systems that are connected to that single cloud. So if one single cloud is affected, imagine the multiple tenants that get affected because cloud service provider will not give you a separate cloud for each of the organization, which will be an overhead for an organization. That's the reason the organizations move from on-prem to on-cloud. I'm not reading through the slides, you can take it from the organizers. I'm just trying to get the concepts clear of how we can and what can happen. So there is a hypercall attack, which is nothing but an intrusion manner where the attacker tries to get the privileged access to your cloud services and then exploit those services. Now, how the exploit has happened, Abhishek has taken us through some demos and have gone through it. So basically, they compromise a virtual machine in the system via a hypercall handle. So they try to call up those handles and see if I can get into the system and hack it. So prevention and detection are the two key important things here. So when we talk about prevention and detection, as rightly explained in the earlier session, some sort of antivirus, some sort of monitoring tool needs to be in place to ensure that the detection and prevention can happen. Then is this something called again a hyperDOS, when it's a virtual host and all the virtual machines are connected. I'm sorry.
Sorry.
There is something called hyperjacking. This is something that I really like about this. The attacker uses a rootkit to install on your virtual machine to gain access. So how many of us know which is a virtual machine that Google and Azure use? We have been using Google and Azure many a times, right? So which is the systems that they use? Any idea? Any virtual machines? 70% of the cloud attack is via hyperjacking loss. Via hyperjacking. So it's basically 70% of the exploits or the vulnerabilities are with Google, are with Azure, because they use Zen sort of virtual machines, and Google use their own proprietary KVM machines, which compromises around 60 to 65% of exploits or the vulnerabilities. So what does the attacker try to do? They try to exploit these vulnerabilities to gain access to our systems, right? So this is something which I really like, because when I was trying to do a deep study on this, there were lots of things that came up which none of us was aware, even I was not aware about it, but we'll speak about it a bit later. Exploiting live migration. This is something very common. What happens is, if I have to migrate from one cloud to the other cloud, I do it online, right? I will not try to stop these services. I just move it online. So when I move it online, there could be an interception in the between to kill up my data. And that's how the attack happens. So basically, what type of attack is this referring to? Man in the middle attack, MITM. Right? So it can create multiple fake migrations, it can do my resource theft, which is very important because my data is not new oil. Right? Today, any data that goes out in the market, it creates a havoc. So data is something very important. So the resource theft is what it happens. It leaves the system vulnerable for more attacks. Now, how do I prevent this? This is something which I thought I should bit focus on. So it's not that I take a server. You remember this? You used to play when you were a kid? I still play it now when I have time and when I go to my native place. Remember that? How stone they used to try to hit somebody, right? So this is something. It's not that I take a server and I try to push it onto the cloud, but we need to ensure that how do we secure our cloud. So educate and train employees. This is very, very important. Today, this is where majority of the attacks happen. I have the best network, I have the best firewall, but my humans are not aware about how to maintain and train those systems. Again, if I come back to the case study of AIMS, there were two network service engineers who had an experience of 6 months who were in charge of ensuring that their network is safe. Right? So who is that person who's taking care of my network? Who's the person who's ensuring that my data is safe is very important. So the only thing that can happen is via awareness. So we need to ensure that we educate and train people. We should be aware about what are the common security breaches that can happen. We have to be aware how do I detect and prevent the cloud malware from attacking my environment. So this environment doesn't only talk about office environment, it talks about your personal environment also. How many of us are using OneDrive, Google Drive, Apple iCloud? All of us, majority of us, right? So we have also to ensure that we ourselves are aware what could go wrong in case my cloud is hacked, in case my Gmail account is hacked, right? It's very simple. But then where does my data go? Today everybody carries my PAN card, Aadhaar card, and they have kept a soft copy on their Google Drive, which is not masked, right? All the 16 digits are still available. This is something very important, access control. Where I said trust but verify. Trust everyone, but verify the authentication of those individuals coming into my network. How many of us ensure that we during our college sessions, we have some group sessions where we do some group presentations or submission of our thesis, right? There is always a group or a team work. And then we give access to those particular drive to our friends. After that, when do we relook into that? Do I still need this access to be kept, or is it a dormant access? Do we do some sort of housekeeping? No, yes, maybe, should be, shall be. English is beautiful, right? It has got lots of grammars into it. So this is something very important, that zero trust mechanism needs to be followed, right? So whether it's an organization, if people are working and people are still would be joining the organization soon, we have to ensure that the zero trust policy deny access to anyone and everyone, be it the CEO of the organization. Right? Many a times we see that CEO has access to everything. And when I was a Chief Information Security Officer for 13 years, my question was, does the CEO have an horn that he will not do any mistake? No, he doesn't. He is a human. And we all are human where we create a mistake. So it's zero trust policy. Only if he is required, please give it to him. Basically, when I say that for the IT, who guards the guards? IT has access to anything and everything. Who guards the guards? So try to see that the accesses are minimal so that it leads to zero attacks onto a system. Because one thing about compliance is, do you all agree with me that no, we cannot be 100% compliance? Yes, no? Why? Why do we say that?
There are many obligations.
Many obligations,
In process.
many processes. Process sometimes are overhead, no? But they are good.
And we have to think beyond the compliance if you want to protect something. Right? The thing is, if I am an attacker, if I am protecting, I will first see the rules, the regulations, and then I will hack. Because I know the law will protect me, or loopholes. I will find the loopholes in it. So that is the thing. We have to think beyond these available compliance objectives.
Okay, great. So now let's look into the third very important part is the network segmentation. Right? If you remember the earlier session, it was said that do not install that toolkit in your own system so that it doesn't exploit the system or doesn't exploit the network. So any sort of analysis that we try to do, ensure that you have a physical and logical segregation. Can somebody tell me what do you mean by physical and logical segregation? Okay for all answers. I'm sure the people are behind are not responding. I'm not sure. Just a minute. I'm waiting for somebody to respond from the last few seats. What do you mean by logical and physical segregation? It's okay to give wrong answers. Anyone? What do you mean by physical segregation? Sorry?
Physical segregations are separate servers. In logical segregations, maybe on one server there are different VMs. So applications server is on one VM and a database server is on different VM.
Perfect. What happens if they are on the same VM? How do you ensure that? How do you take care of that? Your answer is right. Just try to bring the second scenario into picture.
If both of them are on one VM.
Same VM. If both the VMs are on the same physical box, how do you ensure the security of that? Access control. So it comes back to my second one, which I said authentication, right? So many a times when we go to audit, because I'm from ISO QR organization, we are a certification body. So when we go for an audit and we try to understand and analyze these controls or how these are kept in place, we see that they proudly tell me, madam, we have segregated our networks, and we say, okay, can you take me through that whole flow diagram of segregation? So the thing is, they have segregated, but there is a port which talks to each other. Now, why is that port open? No, madam, it is required in case I have to do a troubleshooting. But then what is the use of your segregation then? What have you done? You have put a loophole in between which I can exploit. Right? So when I try to say that network segregation, if I cannot do a complete isolation to the system, at least then put open, ensure that port is open with some reason, some justification and some authentication. And it is reviewed on time to time basis. Just don't keep it open endlessly, say that because I need it, I've kept it open. I'm a very bad person, I can come and exploit your network. Right? So with this, I end my presentation with a bit of humor towards the end of it. Thank you very much. Any questions, queries, please let me know. Sorry, Abhishek, if you could be a bit loud.
Any recommendation for training of employees for cloud?
There are lots of cloud training that is happening across. You have got YouTube channels which you can have. You can attend e-training provided by Google and AWS and Azure, which is happening on constant basis. Once in 15 days, they keep on the training. Those are paid trainings, or you can consult some any training organization who conducts training for these particular sort of awareness.
One of the major hurdles is that IT people are not security people and security people are not IT people.
That's how the segregation of duty has to happen.
But the problem is how much training should be given to the IT people regarding the security?
Now there is no benchmark of how much training can happen. It's a constant learning. See, there are two things where I can put it up. We learn from our mistakes or we learn from others' mistakes. Right? Now if I learn from Godadi's mistake, I will know what is the loophole that has happened and what I can need to protect it. So there are many organizations, they look around where the breaches have happened and they do a critical compliance self-audit onto their own systems. So that's a self-learning, right? Because everything cannot be trained. A bit of user awareness is there which is required, which is the mandatory training which I feel everybody in the organization should undergo, and then we learn from others' mistakes. So compliance checks are always necessary with regards to what is happening in the real world at large. So if I learn from GoDaddy, what are my takes that I can have is, there was no constant review, there was very weak authentication, weak password, or could be anything, right? So that's how we do a self-analysis about where is my network, where is my environment, and how secure it is. So there is no benchmark that I have to do a training, how long, what long. It depends upon what is the environment I'm working. If I have a flat network environment, a training is required because I need to protect all the systems on the environment. If I have virtual various environments, then the level of training may differ depending upon what is the training that is required. So there is actually no industry benchmark for what is the level of training. But a training is, the awareness is required to ensure that the basic of our security is actually known to each one of us. Right? Thank you.